What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. Time to talk some football. You'll notice that BD is not here. He was unavailable this week. He had some kind of uh, training wheel situation with his bicycle he had to deal with or something like that. But I am very pleased to announce our special guest, XFL Mike G, right next to me of the AFN Network. So, which is tradition here in Texans Talking Football, Mike. You've seen us do it a couple of times now. We usually announce what studio we're coming from, but it's usually based on a local business or something that has some kind of connection to our past here in San Antonio. This week, I'm going to be coming to you from the Rally's Hamburger Studios on Ritterman Road. Mike, you got something that a special store from back in the 80s or 90s that you have a connection with?
I'm familiar with the tradition, and I've jumped in a couple of times. I've gotten my hand spanked a couple of times, but I'm going to go with an Austin local that I was just thinking about this. Where I want to say I'm coming from, but it's in Austin, and it's called the Back Room off of Riverside. If you've ever been there, that was the place to be in the '90s, late '90s, early 2000s.
Nice. What is happening, Rig? Good to see you, man. Congrats on that progress on that deck. Keep knocking it out, man. It's going to be phenomenal.
Hydrate and stretch, Rig.
Yep. I'm not familiar with the location, but I do know there's one place that you may or may not know. It just all depends on kind of what you were into the '90s and stuff. But there was a place up there called Homeless Bikes, and they were a manufacturer of BMX style like freestyle bikes, and they were arguably some of the best bikes. I mean, we're talking top of the line like GT and Dyno and stuff like that. But they were made here locally, and they were like two-thirds the price of a regular bike. They were just phenomenal bikes, but you could never seem to find them in stock there. And then they just went out of business, right?
Yep.
But yeah, it was some awesome fun times running around there up in Austin doing our freestyle stuff and just being hooligans and doing what we do, man. So anyways, now that we've gone down memory lane, we've got a bunch to talk about tonight. We've got so much to cover, and I think first things first, probably go with the most recent update, which would be let's talk about the IFA team, right? For those that don't know anything about it, IFA is the International Football Alliance, I believe it is, or association, one of the two. I think it's Alliance. But it's a league that consists of 3 teams down in Mexico. No, was it 4? Yeah, it was 4 teams down in Mexico, 6 teams up here in America. San Antonio got lucky to get one of the teams because we weren't originally part of the host cities that were picked. Things worked out in our favor. We now have a team. We can talk about what that means in just a little bit, but we do have a team. And so as any of you have seen the announcements and stuff, they've announced the name of the team. I'm sorry, I was losing track there for a second. It's going to be the San Antonio Caballeros. Now, Mike, we've had a little bit of discussion about it. Are you excited about this name? Are you not excited? What are your thoughts on what this is going to mean for San Antonio, for the fan base, and for this new up-and-coming league?
I'm excited. I'm excited. Anytime there's more football, and I'm a football junkie. As far as the name, they could have done worse, and I'm glad they didn't. I like it. It's kind of a middle ground for me. The traditional colors are red, white, and blue. We got another animal. I was trying to stay away from the livestock. But it wasn't that bad of a choice. It's something that I definitely I could live with, and then maybe grow on me a little bit.
I can definitely see that. I 100% agree with you about the livestock name. I'm not a big fan of the livestock name simply because we've got the San Antonio Brahmas, we've had the San Antonio Riders, we've had a lot of these like animal names and stuff, and the San Antonio Talons. In fact, we've done stuff with animals with the rodeo. Like some of this stuff is starting to get the Rampage, San Antonio Rampage, I almost forgot about. Some of the stuff's getting a little bit played out. Just my personal thoughts. It's definitely better than some of the choices that were out there. Maybe not as good as some of the other ones that were suggested in some of the group chats and stuff. But it is what it is now, right? Just like everybody knew I was not a super big fan of the San Antonio Brahmas name when we originally got it because, again, I'm worried about the whole animal thing and blah, blah, blah. And specifically, was it Brahmas versus Brahmas because we're not MacArthur? Uh, does anybody even know what a Brahma is? Like, people had to do research and figure it out. Then we got compared to chickens, we got compared to Hindu gods, and really it was, that's kind of, the rocks thing. So that's how we inherited that name. Fine, cool, right? We got it. We're done. We moved on. Now we have the San Antonio Caballeros. Arguably, there's a little confusion about what it means and everything, and then comparing it to the logo and everything. However, I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes with that. What I will say is that I'm very excited about that logo. I think the logo actually turned out pretty good. And the color scheme, the red, white, and blue, is really nice as well. So we're talking about an international team that I believe has corporate headquarters here in America and in Mexico. They have teams in both North America and in Mexico. Well, I should say America and Mexico because Mexico is still part of North America. Um, but so you have the Spanish uh, name with the red, white, and blue colors. It's kind of a nice blending of the two cultures together. And I think that's one of the things that the league was really trying to go for and focus on, at least in these marketplaces, San Antonio and Dallas, to where they could embrace the Hispanic culture and also embrace the U.S. football fans, right? That whole culture, because that's a whole culture in and of itself. Um, and so far, I mean, it's worked pretty good with the San Antonio Brahmas. So why not try it with this new team as well, right? Mike, thoughts?
Um, I kind of spaced out there for a second, right towards the end, so I wasn't really paying attention. But just thoughts on general. No, I do like the name, and it fits in well with San Antonio, and what the league is trying to do is trying to truly be an international league. Which if they can, it's a great concept. I would love to see something like, we have the LFA, the UFL, and the CFL. If they can do something along that route, but they're trying to do it on their own, and they're trying to come up, from the ground up, and I think they got it just right. It wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't underwhelming, and there aren't too many people that are upset about it. I mean, you've ran into one guy who was upset about it, didn't like the Spanish version of the name, and it's so minute. I mean, there's nobody's really crying about it right now.
Yeah. I am not the good yardstick for measuring that kind of a response because I always tend to I seem to find those guys that I'll make a comment on somebody saying something about, well, that's not an American name. And then it spirals into this whole thing. And I definitely, you'd have been proud of me. I tried to be as politically correct as possible and keep it as emotionally uncharged as I could by stating facts and bringing in historical information and just trying to help this person understand the connection to what I feel the league is trying to do. And again, I'm not a league insider, so I couldn't 100% tell you, but I mean, the writing's on the wall, right? Uh, this person just was not getting it, was not seeing it my way. It eventually ended up with guys saying, "You win, I give up," and that's fine. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, and I definitely don't want to make a big issue out of it. Um, but for something like that, like if you have questions, if you're not happy about the Spanish word in this American league that you're thinking, man, go to the website, go check it out, go ask some questions, go to some of these Facebook groups and start trying to get some more information about the group and the culture and the things that they're trying to do. And that can save you from having some of those painful conversations because then you're going to get information from people that actually know what's going on, right? Mike happens to be more connected, arguably, than I am with this IFA league, at least right now, until I can go beat some people up and force my way up, because that's what SAJ does. But the point of all that is that all you got to do is just ask some questions, man. Reach out to people. Say, hey, man, I saw this league. I don't understand what's going on. I mean, is this an extension of the UFL? Is this, what is this? What is this all about? Right? 99% of the time, people are going to jump in and they're going to be like, man, I'd love to tell you about it because they're passionate about it. And they want everybody that's passionate about something wants to share what they know about that thing. So reach out, ask questions, man. Let's get past the shock and awe that we're so used to doing, and let's start coming together as communities and people and showing that mutual respect and just asking questions, man. That's the easiest way to find things out. So I'll get off my soapbox on that now. So
I mean, to follow it up, and I'm going to jump on your soapbox here for a second. It's the knee jerk reactions that, I know me. I've got to stop letting my knee jerk instant reaction be at the forefront of my thoughts, and that's why I'll take a second and take a step back and be like, I'm not going to argue with you, dude. You can go argue with the wall. It's there's no. If you win the argument, you're not changing the name. If I win the argument, I'm not changing the name. So why does it matter? It's really not. It's not offensive. It's not super played out. I think that, like I said, I think they hit it just right for what they were aiming at.
mhm. so that being the case, I am excited for this opportunity. Right, we're going to be seeing international players on an international platform, if you will. We get to see what some of these other countries are offering. Right, we saw that it's a concept that does work. Right, with the NFL Europe, and then what is it, the EFL now, something like that. Uh, there are players out there that are not from America that could arguably be just as good as Americans playing the same sport. So, if we want the best of the best, if we want to call ourselves the best of the best, I really think that we should be tapping into some of these other markets and seeing what the potential is out there, right? You have some of the greatest baseball players are coming from places like Japan and Cuba and stuff like that. Maybe not Cuba so much anymore. Uh, I think most everybody that was good at playing baseball has left Cuba and is now here. But the point being, you've got all these international markets, right? Let's tap into it. Let's have some fun with this. But anyways, we'll get off that subject. We'll move on. I think we definitely want to talk about the IFL because there were some surprising results this weekend. And obviously, 2 weeks from now, we're going to be having the IFL championship game. But BD and I talked about this last week, and we had Massachusetts Pirates going up against the Green Bay Blizzard, and then of course you had San Diego going up against Arizona. Brian and I picked Massachusetts um, in the upset, and I believe Brian picked the Rattlers, and I think I picked San Diego. Now, turns out we were right on our pick with Massachusetts, right? Massachusetts stopped that game 51-28. And those are the numbers that you're expecting to see. And I think what happened in that game, just like Brian and I talked about last week, was that Green Bay was leaning on their defense to keep them in the game. But they were going up against a very high powered offense in Massachusetts, and they just couldn't get it done. And that's what ultimately wound up costing them the game. Now, flip the script. Uh, the exact opposite happened with San Diego and Arizona. I think Arizona was expecting that they were going to be able to come out and run with. I'm sorry, San Diego came out expecting to run with Arizona, and actually got stopped by, a decent defense, but not one of the best in the league, but definitely not one of the worst. But they definitely ran into a brick wall several times, right? Mike, did you watch? I mean, this is some of the stuff that you talk about. Did you watch any of these games this weekend?
I did not. I did not watch any IFL games, unfortunately, this weekend.
Okay.
Um, After the season, I kind of went a different route, got back down on my football a little bit, especially after the Gunslingers were eliminated by Arizona, and maybe it was that it took me a second to kind of get over that. I wasn't really too thrilled about watching Arizona play again. I did pick Mass. I did pick the Pirates to win their game. And I don't know exactly what was going on with the. And I was trying to get you guys. You guys had a show about it a couple of weeks ago about the not being able to broadcast these games and being able to watch them. So that did turn me off quite a bit because normally I just throw it on YouTube and I can watch it and I don't need to download another app or any of that kind of nonsense. And it's right there. And I wasn't able to, and I just had so much going on. I just went, you know what? We're not in it right now, so I'm going to put it off, but I'll watch the championship game.
Yeah. The championship game is going to be arguably a good game. Again, I'm, you know, Green Bay kind of has that tendency that our friends in Frisco do, that they'll dominate the season and they get into the playoffs, and then that's where they trip up, right? Frisco did it this year, they did it last year, and the year before. Green Bay was a contender last year, tripped up towards the end. I don't think they made the playoffs, but they were like one or two games out of the chase. This year, they were, arguably division leaders. They got to that last game and fell apart. Now, San Diego was a little bit of a mystery, right? Because they did not come in to this season expected to do anything, and they made it to the semifinal rounds. Arguably, pretty impressive. But Arizona, man, Arizona's been that team that you can never really count out. Like you saw when San Antonio played Arizona here in San Antonio, that San Antonio could have won that game, but things just didn't break our way. So it's not like Arizona is unbeatable. They're, arguably probably as lucky as they are talented. But this last game, they kind of turned that around really quick. So I don't know if maybe they were saving it for the final rounds, what was going on there, but they definitely showed that they deserved to be in the playoffs with this game. Uh, so that being the case, again, San Diego wound up losing to Arizona Rattlers. Arizona is 58-23. A little bit of a bloodbath. Wasn't nearly what everybody expected. But I picked that one wrong. BD got that one right. I'd hate to see our numbers, but I'm pretty sure he did better than me this season on the IFL picks. And so our final game is going to be Saturday, August 17th at 3:05 Central. And again, it's going to be on their whatever streaming app. I can't remember what the name of the app is, but has been having problems. It had some problems again this weekend as well. Um, so don't be surprised if you try and tune in the championship game and you hit some streaming issues. But it's going to be Massachusetts Pirates at Arizona Rattlers. Go ahead, bud.
Now, is this the agreement that was supposed to give their championship game put on more accessible? Like I know the AFL game was on CBS Plus or something like that. It was it was available if you had like I've got YouTube TV and it was available for that. Is the IFL championship game going to be the same? Because I thought I'd heard them say that.
I could have sworn that it was supposed to be offered on CBS and on that streaming app. They may have just worked it out to where they covered, the semifinals on the streaming app. Well, the quarterfinals, the semifinals on the streaming app, and then the championship game just on CBS. That part I don't remember. I'd have to go back and do some research, and I'm lazy, so I'm not going to do that. But we are going to, for sure, I believe we're going to be seeing this game on. You know what? In fact, why don't I just open up the full schedule, and it should tell me um, where this game can be viewed at, or maybe it's going to try and sell me tickets. Who knows? Yeah, no, it's trying to sell me tickets. We don't want to buy tickets. Um, but heck, it looks like most of the seats are already sold out.
That's
That's
awesome.
impressive. So pretty dope. So yeah, we should be able to see this game on CBS. If not, you're not going to find it on YouTube or anything like that unless somebody pirates a stream. It is either going to be on CBS or on the streaming app, and that's the only way you're going to be able to see it.
It
So
definitely feels like a missed opportunity for those fan bases. You know, you
yeah,
follow your team all year, and you can at least watch them on YouTube, but not in the playoffs, which is kind of a step back in my opinion.
well, and not just that, even for the fans of, indoor football in general, like our friends over at Pro Arena Talk. Shout out to our friends at Pro Arena Talk. We actually just saw an update from Sandy Sharp recently. Looks like he's having a fun time on vacation and stuff. Um, I just love shouting out to those guys because they do all the hard work for us, and we just read their comments and then give them credit for it. But again, this is kind of their world, and so you're taking guys like Sammy and Pro Arena Talk, and essentially telling them, hey, we appreciate what you guys do for us, but oh, by the way, you're going to have to spend extra money. Even though you're a diehard loyal fan, you follow every single game that's ever played out there. Now you got to give us some money too. And that's just kind of ridiculous. Real quick, shout out Rick 8-Bit, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Horns forward. And that's Jesse. What is up, my
Jesse.
guy? So, ah, ah. I'm sorry, my feet are getting eaten by a cat right now. It's a little bit painful. Um, but again, right, like the AFL fiasco, having the network deal that didn't pan out, they potentially were setting themselves up, if you will, to have some really great exposure. And because of horrible business dealings and not making good arrangements with the teams and leaving teams out to dry, uh, they pretty much essentially shot themselves in the foot, right? IFL with this new partnership, and I get it, right? They're doing it for money, they're doing it for revenue, trying to make sure that they're bringing in cash to keep their product afloat and viable. Arguably one of the best indoor football programs that's out there, next to the original AFL. Of course, we've had this discussion a couple of times. Um, but I mean, it's a solid business. It's a solid business plan. They know how to make money. This one seemed a little weird. It seems a little bit forced, like they kind of a little bit of a cash grab, maybe, because they ostracized several of their fans. Um, and I know, just like with the NFL, right? You've said your team is the Cowboys. Cowboys don't make it to the playoffs or make it to the Super Bowl. You're still going to watch the Super Bowl, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So why wouldn't you give your Green Bay fans or your San Antonio Gunslingers fans that opportunity to watch the game, even if their dog isn't in the fight, they're still watching the program, right? So it is a little bit of a miss. It's a little bit off target on the IFL,
Yeah, and it wouldn't
but
have cost them anything to restream it. To have multiple streams on stream it on YouTube and show it on this other app or on TV. What's the
Mhm.
harm in it? It doesn't cost you anything.
Exactly. So I don't know. Again, we're not insiders. We don't have the business plan. We're not privy to any of the upper level decisions or anything. It's just us speculating. But it does sound like they kind of missed the target there. Now, again, that's going to be Saturday, August 17th. That's important because that's also going to be week 2 of preseason. Because what happens on Thursday? Freaking preseason starts, man. It is so exciting. It is such an exciting time. So now, you're our resident Cowboys fan. Why don't you talk to us about some of the updates that are going on in Cowboys camp this week?
Well, officially, according to Schefter, I think it was Schefter, CD Lamb is on the no report list. That's official. Uh, uh, Man, I forgot his name now. Michael Sam is done for the season. He's on the IR. He was supposed to be uh, countered to Micah Parsons and D. Lawrence and what they were doing. He's done for the season. They've continued to sign UFL players. With the Cowboys. Dante Burnett is one of them. He might stick and stay with CeeDee Lamb being out and this being the preseason. There's an opportunity for some of these UFL guys to at least get preseason reps, get some film, and other teams and other leagues will have an opportunity to watch them. One of the unfortunate things about the NFL that has kind of always been a thorn in my side is this exact time of year holdouts, people getting injured and done for the season. Uh, you don't have those issues, injuries you do, but holdouts and contract negotiations and all that stuff you don't have with these other leagues. So I'm just waiting pretty much until the NFL season starts. But in the meantime, with these preseason games, I'm actually going to be focused on the UFL players who are trying to get their opportunity and make a roster somewhere. I'm more excited about them than I am about actually watching the NFL right now.
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't disagree with you. And if my sources are correct, which would be, I believe, ESPN, there are 46 UFL players that are currently signed to an NFL team right now. And that could potentially be more because we've got some injuries that are happening now, and some people may be making the cut and maybe not. Maybe somebody's got to scramble to pick up another, number 4 wide receiver, or, a number 4 cornerback or something like that. So there are opportunities for other players to potentially get back into the league or to get in the league for the first time. But yeah, it is interesting. Like, for example, several of our San Antonio players are trying out with the 49ers. And I'm sorry, I said Brahmas, right? If I
Yeah,
didn't, let me correct that. San Antonio Brahmas players are trying out for the Niners.
we know what you meant.
Okay. And there's a bunch of our fans that are not happy about that because there aren't a whole lot of Niners fans here.
Ah,
Uh, yeah.
when you said that, I didn't really think about it until you kind of put it down like that. But yeah, there's a couple of Brahmas that are trying out, and these aren't signed contracts; they're just tryouts. And of course, and I don't have my notes on me. Uh, Let me think if I can do it by memory. Anthony McFarland and one other player. Let me see. I'm going to cheat and pull up my notes, which I should have done.
Uh,
I believe Anthony John Trey has a tryout with Baltimore, I believe. And again, these are just tryouts; they're not officially signed yet. As much as I love John Trey, I'd love to see him playing on in the fall on Sundays, but I kind of miss him here. Playing for the Brahmas, but it'd be an incredible opportunity for him. He went to camp with the Saints last year, but he was still coming off that injury from 2023 that he suffered in Houston, so he didn't really get a fair shake. I don't believe.
mhm. So you've got defensive tackle Prince Emili is with the Falcons. You've got Cole Laval, who signed with the Jets. And I'm looking at the Horns Forward podcast, by the way. The Horns Forward podcast, wonderful podcast. Make sure you come check us out when we get started again. I don't have any updates about when we're actually going to get started back or when we're doing our back to school drive or anything like that. Hopefully, Jackie, if you're watching, you can give us some updates, maybe kick us in the butt and get us going. But it would be nice to make that happen again. Where's the other one? Because she
Well,
posted it.
Kirkland did get a tryout with the 49ers and with Baltimore. McFarland also got a tryout with the 49ers as well. They aren't officially signed as of yet.
Right. So again, we don't have the most, right? That would arguably be, I believe it was the Stallions and then DC that had the most players get an opportunity to, you know, get into the NFL. Uh, but all this is doing is just providing more ammunition, more proof as to why we need to have spring football, right? Um,
I just sent you the most updated list I have of NFL signings, and these aren't, like I said, they're not the invites. They're the actual already signed a deal.
yeah. Oh yeah, Luis Perez.
Yeah, that's
I
that's the big news. I was going to talk about that
Yeah,
today.
I saw that he was getting a tryout opportunity with the Chargers. I was hopeful that, um, in a way, I was hopeful that he was going to get another shot. In a way, I was also hopeful that he wasn't, just because he's good for spring football, right? He brings eyes. But who wants to, spend their entire career playing spring football? Uh, I'm sure, McCarron, if he got, well, I guess I can't say that. I was going to say if McCarron got the shot, he would probably go back to the NFL. But he had a shot last year, and he decided not to because he didn't want to sit on the bench. He wanted to actually play. So he took a step back and re-signed with the Battle Chickens, and he'll probably do it again this year if he plays. So, uh, but yeah, there's a good amount of players here, and I'm seeing decent amount of DC defenders, surprising amount of Michigan Panthers players, and a lot of Stallions players. Which go figure. I mean, they're the UFL champions. They put together one heck of a team, even though we kind of hate some of them. Maybe hate's a strong word. Maybe we just really, really, really dislike them. And but I mean, they they put up players. They put up numbers, right? And so we've got three for sure that are signed, and we've got another two or three that are trying to get signed. Um, so again, I mean, it makes for a good story, but even more proof, like I said, that we need spring football. We need an opportunity for players to develop their talent, or if maybe they've slipped a little bit, to kind of reset, almost like minor league for baseball or hockey or anything else, right? So, uh, right here, Rick 8-bit. I mean, it's an idea. And then Kirkland would be nasty as a Raven. He would
See,
be
but I
very
don't. I don't
nasty.
want him to go to Baltimore. My nephew's a Baltimore fan, and I don't want him to have John Trey.
Well, I know, and I would love for trust me, I would love to see him in Green Bay, but I mean that's not going to happen either. You know,
Dude.
surprisingly enough, one factoid that we can throw out here, uh, as many moves as Green Bay did make in the offseason, they didn't pick up any UFL players at all.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Dallas, who made very few moves in the free agency market, is probably trying out the most UFL players out of any team in the league. Yeah, I think they've got like 6 or 7 that they're trying out. So we'll see. But Dallas has already struck gold twice with 2 UFL players. Well, USFL players. Um, Maybe they'll do it again. You know.
All right. Well, I just sent you an article by Greg Parks from UFL Board, who lists the UFL players and that are signed and where they fit in as far as the depth chart on each team. And it's a pretty good article, and he's got a couple of players that he mentioned that there's a lot more renegades. It seems like uh, out of uh, out of Texas than there are Brahmas or even Roughnecks. You know, they really went to Arlington. It's like Jerry's trying to keep them close, I guess. Trying to save on a
Mhm.
plane ticket. I don't know.
Well, and that's the nice thing about having this, right? Because everything's hubbed in Arlington. Jerry can just walk over, kind of take a peek, start talking to people like Phillips and everybody else that he's got a long-standing relationship with, and be like, "Hey, who do you guys have your eyes on?" Right? And we also know that Hakeem Butler, Coach Phillips specifically went over to him, gave him a hug after that game, and said, "You should be in the NFL. I'm going to do what I can to make some phone calls." Now I don't know if he actually did or not, but Butler's in the NFL now, right? He signed a contract. So maybe that's Wade coming through. Maybe it was all talk. Who knows? But the fact is that you've got another UFL player that's in the NFL now. And he should be pretty nasty there. I mean,
Yeah, and I hope that and I don't know if the NFL will do it. I doubt it that if they will. But these players, if they're broadcasting a game, point out that they played in the UFL. Try to bring some more recognition to the league. And being that they're probably not going to do that, I think it falls to us, whether we're social media content creators or even just fans, to share some of this awareness. Hey, this guy's playing on my team. This guy's playing on my team. Hey, you like this guy in college? Now he's playing. He played in the UFL, and now he's getting a shot to go into the NFL. We need to do more as a community, as a society, to bring up the UFL as opposed to just waiting for the UFL to do things on its own.
yeah. Um, so definitely, make sure that you're sharing with your friends when you're watching your pro team. Hey, that cat right there was a UFL player. Hey, that cat came through, St. Louis as a Battlehawks fan, right? Help bridge that gap, help make that connection. And in fact, we've got some players that we've watched in the IFL that are working their way up through the UFL now, who hopefully will one day wind up in the NFL, right? And that's really cool. That's kind of like watching that Kurt Warner story unfold right before your eyes. So, definitely make sure you're watching all of these programs. I know it's a lot of football, it's a lot of things to keep track of and everything like that, but it's good information. This is good football, right? This is why we watch it, is not just for the sport, but also for those, rags to riches stories. They're happening right in front of your eyes. So make sure you're watching for them.
And
Now,
speaking of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jay.
no, go ahead.
Just want to throw this little tidbit in there. Speaking of IFL to NFL, one of our personal favorites, Lacoby Tucker. There's rumors that he's getting looked at from the big leagues in the NFL, and Coach Manos on his podcast stated that he's getting some looks. He's definitely having people pay attention to him, and it'd be nice to see him back in the league as well.
Oh, it definitely would. I mean, and that's a cat who, by no fault of his own, kind of got cut because there wasn't enough space, right? He was a roughneck 2 years ago, and then the league shut. Basically it merged, shut down to 8 teams. He had nowhere to go. He had no home. Didn't get kept by he didn't get kept by the new Houston coaching staff because they wanted to go a different direction with their defense. Uh, People overlooked him. Big mistake on their part. Absolutely dominated this year in the IFL with the San Antonio Gunslingers, and so again, hopefully Coach Manas is putting in that good word. But now he's got game film. Now he's got proof that he can do what he needs to do out there, and somebody picks him up, even if it's for a practice squad to help him sharpen up a little bit to then make a run for that starting position, right? But definitely, we're hopes and prayers going out to him. Hopefully, he does make it into the big leagues. That would just be so incredible. That would be that this generation's Kurt Warner story. It'll be awesome. So, kicking over. Speaking of Houston, looks like there's been some interesting stuff happening over in preseason camp over there. Looks like Derek Stingley, one of their backs that they signed, picked off CJ Stroud. Kind of a big deal. Hey, what's up, man? Good to see you, brother. Look, horns right there. Um, so, not that that's necessarily a big deal, but it shows that Houston has definitely committed some players and some effort to improving their defense and getting some really good competition on that side of the ball, which I know they struggled with a little bit last year and really kind of relied on CJ to carry him through. Well, now this should help take some of that pressure off of him. So Houston may be an even bigger contender this year, right? Which I'm sure all of our Houston fans are going crazy and they're loving it and blah blah blah. Whatever. Let them have it because it's the Texans, right? They're just going to be the Texans. Um, but yeah, so some good stuff coming out from Houston training camp. Looks like they're really kind of sharpening stuff, and they're kind of ready to go. Um, Over to my precious Green Bay Packers, and it's not a good story. Um, so, in the last week or so, Jordan Love has plugged back in with the offense, and things have turned around a little bit. But the week prior to that, when Jordan Love was still kind of, doing the contract negotiation and disputing things, whatever, they had the second and third string quarterback playing in the first string offense, and it was just a fiasco. I mean, we're talking, 4 or 5 interceptions in training camp, right? We had a bunch of 3 and outs and stuff like that. We just could not get any kind of production from the offense. So Jordan Love is going to be crucial for us to do anything this season. And I hate to say it that way, but it looks like we're going to be relying on another quarterback for the next 7-8 years, like we did with Favre and we did with Rodgers. Um, I'm hopeful that some of our defensive players that we've signed are going to make a difference this year because we had a pretty abysmal defense last year. And of course, the kicker fiasco. You've heard me say it here, I don't know how many times, Mike. Anders Carlson he should not be the guy, right? Santoso was more consistent than Anders Carlson, and yet Santoso is no longer in the league. You know what I mean? It's just insane. But Anders Carlson and the new kicker Greg Joseph are battling for that starting position. Right now, Greg Joseph does have the edge on him. He's 40 of 46 in kicks, and Carlson is 36 of 46. Not good numbers, you know. So, as much as I hate to say it, you're going to see a lot of tears from me this season. I don't think the Packers are going to be doing a whole bunch of anything this year.
It's
Now,
going to depend on what weapons they have around Love. I mean, I don't know that he's got that many weapons around him. I mean, he's got a great running back and one great receiver or decent receiver. But I was trying to look it up. I think that a UFL kicker got a tryout or is going to get a tryout with Green Bay. And I can't remember his name. I think it was a St. Louis kicker.
yeah, there's actually there was one. I cannot remember. I just saw the article earlier today. Thank you for reminding me. I don't know who he was with, but he wasn't one of the. It wasn't like he was the Panthers kicker or anything like that, where he's dropping 70 yarders. And it's obviously not Romo because Romo's with the Vikings. Uh, But there's definitely one player. I can't. I'll have to look it up and I'll have to post it on the Facebook page. I know how much you guys love seeing me post my Green Bay stuff on there, but yeah, there should be a kicker that's trying out, and we'll have to see what happens. But I mean, this deep into the training camps, I mean, he's going to have to do phenomenal, right? Because otherwise, they're going to go with the known commodity, even if it's not a good commodity. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, right now, I think Love has one great running back, one pretty decent running back, one good receiver, one average receiver, and one pretty decent tight end that can act as a receiver. But that's about it. And that's not really, I don't think that's going to be enough to get it done, man. So we'll see what happens there. Now, we we definitely want to make sure because again, right, we're talking about preseason starting. Well, it's not just preseason for the NFL; it's also preseason for college. Mike, you're going to have a little bit of a different take here because who is your college team?
I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan.
Okay, and I can respect that. Not a team that we normally come across too often here in Texas, but they do cross paths every now and then. Um, Looking at the college rankings, Notre Dame's actually listed 14th out of on the AP 25 poll. They're projected to go 10-3, and they're up one ranking from last year, and that's really good. That's going to make some of our Texas fans happy because you're actually ahead of Oklahoma, right? And nobody seems to like Oklahoma. Um, I will say though, I'm a little concerned about some of the rankings that the AP is putting out. The AP has Texas at 3. Now, is that a realistic prediction for the University of Texas?
If you're asking me, going into the SEC, that is not a good ranking for them. It's not a legitimate number for them. I think it's a little optimistic. And I've seen polls where Notre Dame was at 7, so I can live with 7. New coach, new quarterback, well, second year
Mm-hmm.
coach, new quarterback replacing Sam Hartman. But I'm actually a little bit more focused on Texas State and UTSA because they're a little bit more accessible to me. I actually watched Jake Bates and Frank Gore Jr. play at Bobcat Stadium, which is 20 minutes down the road from me last season or the season before. You know, and then UTSA, they're starting to get ramped up again. There's a lot of excitement around them and who's going to replace Frank Harris. I'm definitely going to be in San Marcos September 7th for that game, UTSA and Texas State. That's going to be a blowout. That's going to be a blowout as far as an experience and the time that those two great fan bases coming together.
Yeah, looking at some of the predictions, uh, everybody's worried what UTSA is going to do without Frank Harris. Frank Harris was kind of the anchor of that team, if you will. But that's also kind of taking a little bit of credit away from the new sophomore quarterback that they have. Uh, I can't remember his name. I'll have to find the the roster again and update myself. Um, but that kid should do fairly well moving into Jeff's system. Jeff Traylor's system is not necessarily a hard one to learn, and it's definitely one that's tried and true. And you can have a lot of success as long as you follow his instructions. So I think that quarterback's going to be okay. He may not do phenomenally this year, but I think he'll do okay. Um, but you've also got to talk about UTSA's defense. I mean, UTSA has arguably one of the better defenses out there. Um, they There was only 3 games last year where they gave up over 200 yards of offense, and that was to Tennessee, Army, and Tulane. And Tulane was a fluke. I still think that that whole thing was just, I don't know, jet lag or food poisoning or who knows. But that Tulane game should not have gone the way that it did. I can understand Army. I can understand Tennessee. I mean, these are the big dogs, and UTSA is just a little pup still. But Tulane, nah, that was a fluke. Anyways, that being the case, Owen McCown, that's who the quarterback is. Um,
Is
He's a
he another one of the
sophomore.
brothers, or is he one of their kids now? Because there's a bunch of McCowns in the league now.
He may be one of the kids or something. Because I mean, this cat's he's a sophomore, so he's got to be like 20, 21 maybe. He can't possibly be that old. Um, they did transfer in a pretty sharp cornerback rather from A&M. But then they did also lose a pretty important edge rusher to what school did he wind up going to? It doesn't say. Uh, but yeah, I mean, there's some really good talent on this roster. Okay, so I think that we're going to have another good year. Maybe not statistically as great as last year with under Frank Harris and Cephas and some of the other guys. By the way, Cephas is with San Antonio now. At least on the bigger roster. They haven't made any cuts or anything yet. And I hope he makes it, man, because I'd love to see a local kid playing here. Um, Probably the first time in our program history to see something like that. But back to UTSA, I think they're going to have a good year next year. I don't think it's going to be as bad as some of the sportscasters are predicting. So we'll definitely see how that goes. Texas State, talk about Texas State. I think they're going to have a great year.
Yeah,
Right? They had arguably a great year last year. Most of their players should be returning, and they should be returning healthy. So I've got a feeling that Texas State is going to make another run, just like they did last year. Uh, are they going to go all the way? Only time's going to tell, right? We're going to have to see how the first couple of games go, and see how they handle the addition of some new players and maybe some new schemes and stuff. But for the most part, they're definitely going to be a powerhouse. They're going to be somebody to contend with.
definitely. And they also had to replace their quarterback. They went through a whole transfer portal rigmarole. Guys were in and out and back and forth, but that program's definitely turning around. They're definitely putting some money into it, and now you're starting to hear about NIL deals in San Marcos, which is kind of an oddity for me.
Yeah, that is something for anybody that knows anything about Texas State. Texas State has always been kind of that school that's been there. They've had a football program. They've produced some decent players, arguably some good players, um, but they've never kind of broken into uh, college football as a football school, right? It's always been Southwest Texas for all of us that know it. It's always been kind of the party school. You go there, get a degree in kinesiology and keg stands kind of thing. Uh, but it looks like the coaching staff and everything finally said, you know what, we're going to break away from all this nonsense. We're going to put Texas State back on the map as a serious contender, and they've done so in great fashion. Um, they're I'm looking at some of the predictions and stuff like that. Uh, they're really stoked about the new Texas State coach and what he's going to do with that program this year. Uh, the toughest two games that arguably that Texas State is going to face is going to be Troy and South Alabama, and they're both on the road, right? Um, but arguably they could run away with the Sun Belt. That could be theirs. Uh, the quarterback T.J. Finley, who's now there, threw 24 touchdowns, 3,400 yards, uh, but now he's off to Western Kentucky, right? So, hey, thanks for what you did. We'll see you around. Uh, Jordan McLeod comes from looks like James Madison, and before that Arizona, and then before that USF. Uh, Veteran quarterback. He's going to have lots of experience. He's going to be able to really kind of plug in and command that field. It's going to make a difference when he's out there on offense. You've got some really good receivers. Looks like your running back Ismail Mahdi. I don't know his last name, so I apologize if I've slaughtered the pronunciation. It's 5'9", 180-pound kid. Ran for 1,300 yards, 10 scores, 20 receptions, and he's going to be basically backed up by UTEP's Hankins and Torrance Burgess. So you've got some backs in the back too. So you've got a running game. So now you don't have to rely on just a quarterback. So yeah, it's looking like Texas State has done their research, taken the time, stacked the deck a little bit in their favor, and they're going to be taking a run at the Sun Belt Conference, which arguably all roads could have to come through San Marcos for this.
Yeah,
So
it's nice to see both programs coming up. That's why I'm so looking forward to that September 7th game, because it could be a coming out for either one of those two programs.
exactly. So we alluded to it earlier, but we are getting ready to start preseason on Thursday. We've got two games that are going to be. One is going to be on the NFL Network. Oh, before we get to that, because one of the teams that's going to be playing here, I want to make sure that we talk about. You being a Cowboys fan are going to absolutely love this. I don't know if anybody saw the updates from Giants training camp, but the Giants are just thugs, man. If you didn't see the updates, go check ESPN. Look for the updates. It may even wind up on Hard Knocks this next week or something like that. But you had two players from the Giants squad get into a fight with each other. One guy hits the other guy in the head as he's running by. Don't know why. Don't know the whole motivation behind it and everything like that. But 100% hits one of his teammates in the back of the head, which then triggers that guy to go after the first guy. And it winds up becoming this whole training camp interrupting fiasco of a situation. Now, Mike, you've been around the game a long time. You understand how emotions can run high and things like that. What does something like that do to your locker room? And what does that tell you about the team just in general and the coaching staff and everything like that?
Normally, those kind of confrontations can be taken one of two ways. We're really spirited. We're fighting. We're doing this. We're hustling. We're staying on it. We're grinding every day. Or it could be signs of a locker room that's a little bit sloppy. I'm with the Giants in this particular year. I'm leaning towards that. I believe one of the guys who instigated was Neighbors, who was a receiver, who was a high round draft pick for them. And if you do watch the Hard Knocks, they did the offseason with the Giants, and they had him listed as a high talented guy, but possibly attitude or behavioral issues. So when you bring a high round draft pick like that into your team, it can change the tone. And I don't think it's a positive tone. I think it's more of what's to come. That whole organization's a mess right now, in my opinion.
Mike, I don't disagree with you at all. I think a lot of it has to do with just a locker room that's in chaos, right? You've got a coach that isn't necessarily in control of the team. He's not demanding the respect that a coach is supposed to demand, and he's got some elements there that really need to be reined in. But because he doesn't have the respect of the locker room, can't rein them in, and so now they're running wild out on the field. Trust me, I get it. I understand the passion of this game. This is arguably one of the most passionate games that's out there on earth. But if you have a situation where you've got beef with one of your teammates and you do something like that, knowing full well that a reaction like that could very well happen, that means you've got no respect for your teammates, you've got no respect for your coach, you've got no respect for anything. You're only looking out for yourself. And then those kinds of fiascos are going to happen, right? You're going to have players going after other players. It's going to turn into this whole big thing. You're going to interrupt practice. You're going to interrupt that very limited, valuable time that you need to build that cohesive bond with your teammates, regardless of whether you're going to be there or not, right? Or they're going to be there or not. You're supposed to be building those bonds with everybody around you, because that guy you got beef with this week, maybe the guy that's going to save your bacon next week in the trenches, right? Maybe he's the one that opens up the hole for you that you're going to have to run through. Well, now that you took a smack at him, maybe he's not going to be there to block that defensive tackle that is looking to take your head off, right? I mean, you're setting yourself up for all kinds of failure, and that ultimately goes back to the coach not having control of the team. Not, I mean, those guys. If it were me, I would have been the second or third guy out there, right? Because coaches are normally not in the mix during those kinds of live practices. So I would have been out there. I would have been grabbing people by the face masks. I would have been ripping people apart. Somebody would have been running suicides for the rest of the day, right? Uh, and they probably would have been fine because now you've taken away my time. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say is a lot of successful programs and successful coaches have their own guys. Bill Parcells comes in, he's got Parcells guys. Hell, Dan Campbell's a Parcells guy. I don't see Brian Dable. I don't see the coach of the Giants having his guys. There should have been a veteran who stepped in and said, "We're not doing this, rookie. I don't care what round you're drafted in. We're not doing this." And it doesn't seem like he has a lot of guys working for him to try to bring in and solidify his program and how we do things and how what the Giant way is or whatever the team is. It doesn't seem like they have that, and it's really telling for your team. We've talked about in the past where teams have been extraordinarily talented and they kind of coast on that. They have successful regular seasons and then they fold in the playoffs. And it's kind of the same thing. You need to have strong character leaders who are uh, emphasizing what the coach is saying to go that way to be successful. And you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have mature guys who have the vision, just like your coaches do, this is where we're trying to go. This is what we're trying to do. Knock it off. If you don't have those guys, good luck. That's going to be a rough season.
Yeah. Well, and so shameless plug. The flip side of that, or the proof in what you're talking about, Jordan Love's first year as the starting quarterback was last year. The entire locker room, defense and offense, rallied around him and said, "Hey, that's our quarterback. That's our future. That's our guy. We believe in him." You don't see stuff like that in New York, as you said. The coaching staff isn't rallying around the head coach. The players aren't obeying the coaching staff. It's kind of a free for all and it's kind of messy. And I think that that's going to translate into the Giants having a very, very bad season this year, which is great for you as a Cowboys fan. But for the Giants fans out there, it's going to be yet another year of disappointment. So tough stuff. Um, so this week, right, we've got games on Thursday night. We've got 2 games on Thursday. You've got 3 different games on Friday. You've got 1 game on Saturday. Well, actually, you've got a bunch of games on Saturday and then 2 games on Sunday. The Cowboys will be playing. Where are my Cowboys at? Cowboys are going to be playing on Sunday against the Rams, right? In LA, I believe. Okay. Um, our Texans, where are our Texans friends? Um, they are going to be playing the Steelers on Friday night. Okay. And then my precious Green Bay Packers are going to be playing the Browns on Saturday afternoon. So, again, preseason starts this week. So, if you don't have, and I don't know if the preseason games are going to be covered on like the Sunday Ticket on YouTube or anything like that. I do know that they're going to be on NFL Plus. So if you have an NFL Plus subscription, you should be able to catch these games. I'm sure the Cowboys game will probably be on TV here locally, but it may not. I mean, I don't control the TV broadcast, so I have no idea, right? And I'm not going to watch a Cowboys game anyway. Sorry, just not going to do it.
He just doesn't like America.
Yeah, I don't. I only like my America that borders Illinois and ends in Canada. So no, there's going to be a lot, and so I'm going to try and catch little updates from every one of these games. But I do have the NFL Plus subscription. I don't know how many games I'm going to be allowed to watch. Right? They might get mad at me for hopping between games and being like, "Nah, no, you can't do that." So maybe I'll just watch Red Zone or something like that. But again, football is upon us, right? The official first week of preseason starts this week. Such a great time to be alive. You have the IFL playoffs wrapping up this weekend on Friday as well. I know in the next couple of weeks we should start hearing more information about the UFL as far as season tickets. Some teams have already heard stuff, other teams have not. But I guarantee you, within the next couple of weeks, we're going to get information. Everything's going to get caught up with that. We're going to have the supplemental draft coming up in about another 2 months, 3 months, and then before you know it, we're going to be in the end of December looking towards Super Bowl and NFL ending and the start of our beloved UFL season again. It's going to be so glorious. This is such a great time to be alive, Mike. I'm telling you, I can't think of another time where we've had year-round football. And
And
it's
you're
glorious.
forgetting something. You're forgetting something. How can you forget Friday Night Lights in Texas?
Oh, yeah. So,
I'm going to
yeah, and
be
I'm actually,
traveling all over the state of Texas. I'm going to be following two varsity squads and a freshman squad all over Texas this year, on top of the podcasting duties and all the other things that I do. Be making some road trips to College Station.
nice. That's going to be awesome. And so we'll definitely be looking forward to you providing us with updates and everything. Along with our friend Coach Tom Walker and our friend Milton Hope, the voice of the Judson Rockets and the UTSA Roadrunners, and hopefully the San Antonio Brahmas this next season,
Yes.
uh, we will have them pop on every now and then and give us high school updates because that's what they do, right? And they follow all the Judson schools. So that's Wagner, that's Judson, that's Veterans Memorial. By proxy, they'll have updates for a lot of the other schools in the 6A and the 5A divisions, and we'll be providing you with a lot of high school information here. So, Mike, last couple of seconds here is why don't you go ahead and do your shameless plugs for all your socials and stuff where people can follow you.
All right. Well, you can follow me on Facebook on XFL Mike G on AFN. My Twitter handle is XFL Mike G. I'm going to cover mostly alternate football, and it's going to be in the state of Texas. So it's going to be in the UFL. It's going to be the Brahmas, the Renegades, and the Roughnecks. In the IFL, it's going to be the Frisco Fighters and, of course, the San Antonio Gunslingers. Try to follow a little bit of the Corpus Christi Tridents, but there's a lot of teams in Texas. There's a lot of football in Texas. So if you want one-stop shop for all your Texas alternate football information, XFL Mike G.
Mm-hmm. Or you could always come to Texans Talking Football where you get your source of all Texans football because that's what we do, Mike.
I
Stealing all
tag
of our
you.
thunder.
I tag you. I tag you all the time.
Oh yeah, no, this is 100% a cooperative partnership here. Anything that we find out before Mike, which is very rare, but we always make sure to share because again, we very much believe that we are a cohesive network. That maybe I find something out, I share it with Mike, so Mike can go share it with his followers. Mike finds something out, he shares it with us, so we can share it with our followers, and that's how we get the information out there. Um, and it's just you know this is just what we do. We're just a bunch of friends hanging out doing podcasts, having a good time talking about the thing that we're passionate about the most, which is football. So with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off for the night. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Shout out to our sponsor, W Energy Drink. Again, great source of energy. Doesn't provide all those caffeine jitters and all that stuff. Mike's got the gunslingers represented. Of course, I'm going to represent the horns forward. And guys, we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.